Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Taylor and this is Venter's Bookshelf. So I have kind of the big collection of books to talk to you guys about today. So for the first part of the year, I put myself on a book buying ban, and I didn't start getting new books until the beginning of April, and April was my birthday month. So from April to basically Mother's Day is when I allowed myself to buy books, and I have 30 books to haul for you guys today. So 2 of them are audiobooks, and then I have 14 ebooks to haul, and I have 14 physical books to haul. So hang on tight, it's going to be kind of a long one today, and let's get right into talking about all of my new books. So I'm going to start with the 2 audiobooks that I have. The first one is Piranesi or Piranesi by Susanna Clark. This is the one that I got during the Audible sale, and I am super excited about it. So this is a mythology novel, and we are following Piranesi, who lives in this very unique house. It has infinite rooms. There are thousands upon thousands of unique statues in this house, and there is an ocean imprisoned in the house, which, if that in itself doesn't get you to want to read this, I don't know. That's what hooked me on it. So Piranesi lives to basically explore his house. There is one other person who lives in there with him, and that person is just called the Other. And twice a week he will come to Piranesi and ask him for his help with a great and secret knowledge. But as Piranesi is doing so, it seems that there are clues surfacing that there may be another person living in the house, and some dark and dangerous truths are starting to come to light. And the other audiobook that I am hauling today is Rise of the Princess by D.A.L. This is the one that was kindly sent to me to read, listen to, review, and D.A.L. is an author that I have worked with previously. I do actually have a physical copy of Rise of the Princess that he sent me as well, and I have in the past read and reviewed his book, The Old Yellow House on Millard Road, which is a spooky middle grade. So Rise of the Princess is another middle grade. It is a fantasy, and we are following Princess Lizzie and her friend Princess Ruby. It starts off on Princess Lizzie's 13th birthday and her party. It's super extravagant, and there's pink everywhere and lots of cake. But then the castle is invaded by trolls, and Princess Ruby's sisters are abducted. So Princess Lizzie and Princess Ruby band together and decide to sneak out of the castle and go and try and save Ruby's sisters. This story is ultimately about Princess Lizzie overcoming her own fears and rising to the occasion to save people that she cares about from certain death. Moving on to the ebooks that I have acquired over the last couple of months, we have Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. I know this book has been everywhere. I put it on my most anticipated releases list at the beginning of this year, and I know that I like Heather Fawcett's writing because I did read The Grace of Wild Things earlier this year as well. So in Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, we are following Emily Wilde, who is a professor and a researcher traveling to right the Encyclopedia of Fairies, trying to understand the Fae and pull together all the information that she can about them. The one thing that is kind of standing in her way with her mission is the fact that she's not good at people. She arrives in this small town where she is planning to do some more research and has completely decided that she's not here to make friends with the townspeople. She's here to do her work. But then her very charismatic co-worker, sort of rival in the academic world, Wendell Bamblebee, shows up. It really throws a wrench into her plan. He is charming the townsfolk, and everything's just kind of going wrong for Emily. As she is doing her work, things kind of start to surface and make her question, who is Wendell really and what does he want? Next up, we have Over My Dead Body by Sweeney Boo. This is a spooky YA graphic novel, and it is said to be perfect for fans of The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, which I definitely am. This is set in the Younwitties Institute of Magic, as well as the sort of creepy Forbidden Forest set just beyond the Institute. And we are in the days leading up to Samhain, when the veil is thinnest between the world of the living and the world of the dead. So we're following our main character, Abby, who is just going about her normal business until one day her best friend, who is basically like a sister to her, Doreen, goes missing. She just vanishes. Now the coven, who kind of runs everything here at the Institute, is saying that everything will be fine, they will find Noreen. But Abby isn't convinced, and she takes up the investigation on her own, which leads her down a rabbit hole, uncovering secret after secret, and it is almost more than she can handle. Next up is Good For You by Camille Pagan. This is a romance. We're following Allie Jackson, who has recently landed her dream job working for a magazine, but 6 months in and all of her coworkers are being super rude and belittling her, and she decides to retaliate, which ends up in a very public and basically career ending meltdown. So now Allie is on a month-long leave from her job, trying to undo the mess and put her life back together. She decides to go to the Michigan lake house that was left to her by her brother when he passed away, and use the time there to sort through the whole mess that she's created. Unbeknownst to her, her brother also left the lake house to his best friend, Wyatt. So we have a forced proximity romance trope here, as well as a kind of enemies to lovers, because Allie's wanting to sell this lake house, Wyatt is not, and it just sounds super, super interesting. The next one is one that I am really, really excited about because it combines two of my favorite things, time travel and mystery. We have I'll Stop the World by Lauren Tommen, and the foreword of this book is actually penned by Mindy Kaling. So as I said, this is a time travel mystery, and we're following our main character, Justin, who is trapped in this dead-end town where he's basically defined by the suspicious deaths of his grandparents, even though those happened many years before he was born. The crime was never solved. Now, Justin's making some choices about his life, and his path has collided with a super optimist Rose, so his complete opposite in every way. They live in the same town, they go to the same school, but they've never met because Rose is in 1985, which is 20 years before Justin was even born. And in Rose's timeline, Justin's grandparents are still alive. So now Justin and Rose have just 1 week to get Justin unstuck from the timeline and put each of them back on their own path. And to do that, they must solve the murder of Justin's grandparents, which hasn't happened yet. There are quite a few content warnings associated with this book, so please definitely check the trigger warnings before you pick this up if you know that there are subjects that you are very sensitive to. Now we have Something Bad Wrong by Eric Pruitt, and this is a mystery thriller. I'm going to read you the tagline for this because I think it sums it up pretty well. To catch the killer who eluded her detective grandfather 50 years ago, a true crime podcaster must contend with outdated evidence, ulterior motives, and the dark family secrets that got in the way. So we're following our main character, Jess, who has just returned to her hometown, and she is picking up where her grandfather left off. She's working from her grandfather's notes to try and solve this cold case and put her family's shame to rest. And to do that, she enlists the help of a reporter named Dan. This is told in a dual timeline format where we are following both Jess's investigation and her grandfather's investigation. This next one I am absolutely I want to pick it up as soon as possible. That is 1,000 Recipes for Revenge by Beth Cato. This is a historical fantasy, which is one of my favorite subgenres, and it centers around food, which, yes, 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 yes. The tagline for this one says, "A world on the brink of war and a mother and daughter on the run, in a thrilling novel of swashbuckling adventure, culinary magic, and just desserts." I'm going to leave it at that. And yeah. Next is Trust Me, I'm Lying by Mary Elizabeth Summer. In this book, we are following Julep Dupree, who tells lies. She's a con artist, a master of disguise, and a sophomore at this swanky Chicago private school. She doesn't have a lot of money, even though her father sends her to this swanky private school. So for spending money, she runs cons and scams her classmates, all while trying to stay under the dean's radar and maintaining an A average. One day she comes home and her apartment is completely ransacked and her dad is gone. Teaming up with her hacker friend Sam and her school's resident Prince Charming Tyler, she goes through the clues that her father had left behind and is met with stalkers, hit attempts, family secrets, and the threat of foster care. But that's not going to stop her because she has her plans to go to Yale, and if she gets put into foster care or if the person who took her dad finds her, that's not going to happen. Next up is Tiny Tin House by L. Mary Statter. This is a slightly dystopian but set in modern times story. It is set in the Christian states of America, where the law is that a woman's place is with a man. Although technically an adult at 18, our main character Marin must by law live at home with her stepfather Ray until he finds her a husband. But when Ray kills her mother, Marin has to flee for her own safety. And she quickly discovers that there is nowhere safe in the Christian states of America for a woman on the run. She has a couple of options, one being going back to her stepfather, which, not an option. The other being marrying her ex-boyfriend, who has already shown a capacity for violence, not an option. So she comes up with a third path for her, which is going against all the laws, and she builds herself a tiny home, but even that might not be enough to save her. Next we have a cozy fantasy that I've heard so many good things about so far, and that is Can't Spell Treason Without T by Rebecca Thorne. So this is actually more of a cozy fantasy meets cozy mystery, which I love so much. And we are following Raina and Cant, who just want to open up a bookshop. They want to serve tea, have worn wooden floors and fireplaces. However, Raina works for the queen, and Chianti is the most powerful mage in this land. So leaving their high-profile lives is not going to be easy. But after Raina is taken hostage, she decides that she is done serving the queen. And with Raina on board, Chianti is ready to go, be right there at her side. So they move to this small town, one that boasts more dragons than people, and they open their shop. What follows is a cozy tale of mishaps, mysteries, and a murderous queen throwing the realm's biggest temper tantrum. The next two are short homemaking books, and they are The Spring House and The Summer House by Allison May. So these are basically like extra long pamphlets almost on ways to embrace the season and bring the season into your homemaking routine. As a stay-at-home mom and homemaker, I really want to do more to embrace each season. So these include tips on preparing for the season changes, as well as bringing the season in with decorating and cooking and cleaning. And it also includes journal prompts, which definitely will help with my desire to sort of romanticize life a bit more. And finally, for my ebook haul, we have Small Spaces, Dead Voices, and Dark Waters by Catherine Arden. It's the first 3 books in the Small Spaces spooky middle grade series, and I was lucky enough to get them all on sale. One I am missing is Empty Smiles, which is the 4th one, and the only reason I didn't get that one as well is because it was not on sale and I was really trying to stretch my book budget. So like I said, these are spooky middle grades. They are middle grade horror. And the first one, Small Spaces, is following 11-year-old Ollie, who finds solace in books after a tragic loss. So when Ollie happens upon a crazy lady by the river who is about to throw the book in the water, she doesn't think, she just goes and takes the book and leaves. She starts reading the book, and the next day her school takes a field trip to Smoke Hollow, which is this like creepy local farm with a haunting history. And she stumbles upon the graves of the very people she's reading about in the book. So when that happens, of course, the villain of the book, dubbed the Smiling Man, starts to become real because she's literally standing at the graves of the characters of the book. Moving on to the physical books that I have to haul, I am starting with one that was so kindly gifted to me by my friend Kate after the passing of my mother, and that is the UN Honeymooners by Christina Lauren. This will be my very first Christina Lauren, and I am so excited. It gives me so many summer vibes, so I'm definitely going to be reading it this summer. Olive Torres used to be the unlucky twin. From inexplicable mishaps to a recent layoff, her life seems to be almost comically jinxed. By contrast, her sister Amy is an eternal champion. She even managed to finance her entire wedding by winning a slew of contests. Dang, that's lucky. Unfortunately for Olive, the only thing worse than constant bad luck is having to spend the wedding day with the best man and her nemesis, Ethan Thomas. Olive braces herself for wedding hell, determined to put on a brave face, but when the entire wedding party gets food poisoning, the only people who aren't effective are Olive and Ethan. Suddenly, there's a free honeymoon up for grabs, and Olive will be damned if Ethan gets to enjoy paradise solo. So they head to Maui on this temporary truce and are basically forced to go on their friends' family's honeymoon together. Forced proximity, enemies to lovers. Love it. These next 5 books are ones that I was able to snag when one of my friend was doing an unhaul, and I am so thankful to Nikki. She was able to send them to me without any issues. So I have Dance of Thieves and Vow of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. And I believe this is just a duology, so I do have both books now. So these are fantasies. We have an outlaw family, a son that's destined to lead and then suddenly thrust into power, 3 extremely fierce women who are part of the Queen's Guard, a legendary street thief who's determined to prove herself, and a dark secret that is threatening the entire continent. I don't want to know more because that sounds amazing, and I really think that I can get sucked into these. Also from the stack that I got from Nikki is King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo. Now I have zero excuse not to finally read a Leigh Bardugo book. I have been holding off because her whole writing style universe is very intimidating to me, but I now own one, so Leigh Bardugo, I'm coming for you. The Boy King and the War Hero, the prince with a demon curled inside his heart. Nikolai Lantsov has always had a gift for the impossible. The people of Ravka don't know what he endured in their bloody civil war, and he intends to keep it that way. Yet with each day, a dark magic within him grows stronger, threatening to destroy all he has built. Zoya has devoted her life to honing her deadly talents and rebuilding the Grisha army. Despite their magical gifts, Zoya knows Grisha cannot survive without Ravka as a place of sanctuary, and Ravka cannot survive a weakened king. Zoya will stop at nothing to help Nikolai secure the throne, but she also has new enemies to conquer in the battle to come. Far north, Nina wages her own kind of war against the people who would see the Grisha wiped from the earth forever. Burdened by grief and a terrifying power, Nina must face the pain of her past if she has any hope of defeating the dangers that await her on the ice. Ravka's king, Ravka's general, and Ravka's spy. So it sounds like we are following 3 main characters in this book, and all of their stories are going to intertwine, which is something that I love to see. I love having more than one main character and seeing how their stories end up together. I also got this one from my friend Nikki, and it's one that I have been wanting to get to for quite a while now, and that is The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. So this is a historical fiction novel, and it is set in Texas in 1921. We are post the Great War, aka World War I. Our main character, Elsa, has been deemed by society to be an old maid. In other words, too old to marry, when marrying is a woman's only position in society. So she takes matters into her own hands and finds herself the only respectable husband option there is. And that is Rafe Martinelli, and this is a man that she barely knows. Fast forward to 1934, and a ridiculously bad drought has just devastated the Great Plains. Elsa's marriage is tumultuous at best, and she is having to make a decision on whether to stay and fight for their farm and fight for their community, or to move on west in search of a better life. So this is going to be a very deep sound. It sounds like a very deep novel and portrait of rural America in the time of the Great Depression, which is something that is very interesting to me because my grandmother, who we unfortunately lost last year, she was born in Iowa in 1925. And so this time period here is the Great Plains and the time that she would have been a child and a teenager. So getting to read a story based in that time period and in that setting, I feel like is going to bring me closer to understanding more of the kind of world she grew up in. And the last one that I got from Nikki is The Homewreckers by Mary Kay Andrews. This is one that's been on my radar for quite some time. It is a romance, and I've heard good things about Mary Kay Andrews' writing. So we're following main character Hattie, who has grown up and done everything she's supposed to. She went to work for this restoration company and married the boss's son at age 20, and then unfortunately by age 25 was widowed. So now she is throwing herself into her work and has become very passionate about the restoration work that they do. However, despite her father-in-law's warning of never fall in love with something that can't love you back, Hattie falls head over heels in love with this money pit of a property that she is desperately wanting to restore. But she needs money to do that, and she needs it fast. In walks in this Hollywood producer, and she is selected to be on this HGTV type show where they are renovating beach houses, and it is called The Homewreckers. She is also paired with this handsome male lead who is supposedly supposed to be a love interest, but maybe also the antagonist, and things start to get dicey. During the renovations of this property, they come across evidence that is linked to a prior disappearance of a young mother. So having detectives on the scene just makes it completely chaotic, and Hattie is wondering if she's ever going to get what she needs for this property that she loves, and if she will ever get her happily ever after. These next ones are ones that I purchased for myself, and we have An Elderly Lady is Up to No Good and An Elderly Lady Must Not Be Crossed, both by Helen Thurston. I have read this one. It is a collection of short stories all starring the same character who is an octogenarian and is definitely on the not so savory side of the law. And this is the sequel. Stories in the first one just made me laugh. So the main character is Maud, and she has no qualms with murdering people and causing mass chaos, and it is just hilarious to follow Maud on all of these dicey adventures. These also are translated works from, I believe, a Swedish author. So definitely pick these up if you want to laugh, and these are great options if you are wanting to increase your reading of translated works. So I've been wanting to grow my classics collection, and I want to do it with very nice editions, very pretty editions. So I made a pact with myself that for my birthday, Mother's Day, and Christmas each year, starting this year, I'm going to buy myself a pretty edition of a classic. So for my birthday, I bought myself this beautiful edition of Little Women and Other Novels. So this has Little Women, Little Men, and Joe's Boys, which are all three of the novels in Louisa May Alcott's Little Women collection. I love the design of this. It's got the gold foiling on the cover. It is a like faux leather cover. The spine is gorgeous. It even has these little like bump outs here like you find in more antique books. The back cover is beautiful as well, and we've got gold foiled edges, which is just stunning. It has a ribbon bookmark, and even the end pages are beautiful as well. So being a classic, I don't think I need to tell you what Little Women is about, but we're following the March family with Jo March and her sisters, Beth, Amy, and Meg. And Little Women is basically a fictionalized biography of Louisa May Alcott's life, which I think is just so wonderful, getting a glimpse into what she went through during her lifetime. And for Mother's Day, I bought myself this gorgeous edition of the Iliad and the Odyssey by Homer. You can see it's got foiling in both gold and blue on the cover. I love that we have these two statues. Again, the spine is gorgeous and it's got these bump outs. And the back cover, once again, we do have the gold foiled edges and a ribbon bookmark, as well as beautiful end pages. So the Iliad and the Odyssey, obviously most people know what they are, but they are mythology novels, and really they are more like epic poems, I believe is how they are categorized. Definitely classics, ones that I have not yet read, but have been wanting to basically since high school. I was in the advanced English classes in high school, and while the regular English classes read the Odyssey for their required reading, my class did not. So I missed out on reading it in high school, and I just cannot wait to get to this one. We are almost done. We've got 4 books left to talk about, and the next one is Fenley, Donovan is Killing It by El Cosimano. I have been wanting to read this for like a year. I am going to be reading it in June for part of my big summer project, and I'm so excited for it. This is following Fenley Donovan, who is a struggling author and mother, and she is mistaken as a woman for hire, an assassin for hire, after someone overhears a phone call with her and her editor. But she needs the money, so she accepts this offer to kill this lady's husband, and it just evolves into a funny and witty situation from there. This next one I bought for the spring readathon that I am currently in the middle of. It is a month-long readathon for Alexandra Rosen's Patreon Foxenwood, and this book is The Night Animals by Sarah Ann Jacques. I love the cover of this book. I think it is just absolutely beautiful with that blue foiling and the black background with all of these colors. I think it is just absolutely gorgeous. So in this book we are following Nora, and Nora's mom is ill. She has good days, she has bad days, but the days that are bad are more often outweighing the days that are good. So rainbow shimmering ghost animals start to appear to Nora, and she's convinced that they hold the answer to what's happening in her life. So she starts following these glittering ghostly animals, hoping that they hold the secret to having the strength that she needs to help her family during this incredible incredibly difficult time. And the last two books for this book haul I purchased for a Patreon book club for Live Library's Patreon. And the first one I didn't actually end up getting to reading. It was the pick for April. Fortunately, I was dealing with the aftermath of my mother passing on March 31st, so my whole month of April was very difficult, and I unfortunately just didn't get to this one. But that is Flower Heart by Catherine Bakewell. This is one that was also on my most anticipated releases list for this year, and it is a cottagecore type fantasy. So we're following our main character Clara, and she has this plant type magic, and it's never been dangerous before, but one day she accidentally makes flowers bloom in the chest of her father and has to scramble to save his life. She teams up with her childhood best friend Xavier, who is not as nice as he used to be. Xavier, knowing that Clara will do anything to save her father, asks for a very terrible price. So it sounds like there may be some romance in this, with a little bit of friends to enemies to lovers type deal. And I am just really curious to figure out how she ends up saving her father. And the last one, which is the Patreon book club for Live Library's Patreon pick for May, is Happy Place by Emily Henry. I am currently reading this one, and I am about 15% into it so far. This is my first Emily Henry book, which I know is like blasphemous in the booktube community, but I am loving it so far. So we are following Harriet and Wynne, as well as their friend group. Now, Harriet and Wynne were engaged, and they have recently broken up, but they have not told their friends yet. Harriet shows up to her happy place, which is this beach house that they all go to during the summer to spend a week together. And when she shows up, Wynne is there. Now, he's not supposed to be there because Harriet and Wynne had decided amongst themselves that they would alternate trips and that this one would be hers, in which she would tell the friend group about their separation. But he's there, and they are shocked with news of two of the friends that they're getting married, and they're getting married that week, and that's why Wynne is there. So they can't tell them now because everyone is super excited about their friends getting married. They don't want to spoil anything, so they are having to pretend that they are still a couple for this week, for the sake of their friends. So it is forced proximity, it is second chance romance, and it is just absolutely amazing so far. I was only 6 pages in when I started laughing. Alright guys, that is it for this book haul. I am so excited for all 30 of these books. I am hopefully going to get to all of them at some point this year, and who knows, some of them may show up in future vlogs. I am not planning on doing another big book haul until towards the end of the year during the holidays, so these will definitely need to last me for a while. But if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Ring that notifications bell. As I said when I was talking about Fenley Donovan, I do have a big project coming up this summer that I'm super excited about that I cannot wait to share with you guys. So you definitely don't want to miss news about that. And that is all, so I will see you guys in my next video.